Welcome to In Hoff We Trust, the Deutschland 83 podcast that we are doing for the 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast network. I guess that's what you call them. I don't know. It's going on the 80s Reboot feed along with some other shows. So it's not going to really be a standalone. So if you want to listen to this, you got to subscribe to 80s Reboot Overdrive or just go to the website, southgatemediagroup.com. But I suggest subscribing because there's a lot of good shows, even just on 80s Reboot. Let's introduce ourselves. This is our pilot. So I'm Rob Southgate. You're...
Oh, I'm Chris Mao.
Would you forget?
No, I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared for you to talk to me yet. So that's bad.
Yeah, it happens, man.
Yeah.
So Chris, since this is the pilot, we want people to get to know us a little bit. Why don't you talk about yourself a little bit?
Absolutely. My name's Chris Mao. I am the co-owner of Blue Box Cafe in Elgin. Excuse me. Owner of Blue Box Cafe in Elgin, Illinois. It's a Doctor Who themed coffee bar, and I am a co-host of several podcasts on the Southgate Media Network. Counterculture, This Week in Geek, Binge Worthy, and also fill-in host on a couple other shows.
Yeah, there you go. And you're a food guy, so I have a feeling we'll be talking food a little bit here.
Absolutely.
And you're a big geek, so I'm sure we'll get into some of that too. And when you and I met at the Blue Box, it was Martha and Molly and I were there, and we met you, and then we met Kathleen, and you were the one that said, "Hey, can you come do these shows live at the Blue Box?" And it was like, we really hadn't done that before.
Yeah.
You just happened to see us do one thing that was really a trial.
Sure.
And you've been so kind to say, let's go ahead and try this and see what happens. And it's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And, it was, I think you came and helped at that Elgin Fringe Fest, the family Fringe Festival that we had sponsored. And I think then, I'd ask you to come out and do some stuff for Nightmare on Chicago Street. And I thought that went pretty well, all things considered. And, I think we got that idea, and I think it's been great. And it's helped, it's helped us. I think it's helped you, and it's got me into podcasting. Great. So, yeah, I did how do you get into podcasting kind of sheepishly asking you, and then all of a sudden here I am. So
that was that first time you're like, so how do I get into podcasting? I give the standard answer. You just talk to me. That's all you got to do, because
exactly.
We'll basically say, okay, let's figure it out. And obviously we did, because you're on a ton of stuff now.
Yeah,
so.
No, it was kind of cool. I thought it was like, and not to belittle it or to say anything, but I thought it was like all these things you had to do and do all this, and we just kind of talk, and I think it's a lot of fun. So I think we have a great time.
I think that's the big thing about podcasting is the barrier to entry is really low. Mm-hmm. I think that most of what it is for people is that fear of the initial step. I had it when I wanted to do this. I was like listening to a ton of them and thinking about it, and I was like, I told Martha back then, I'm like, I really want to try this, and she's like, yeah, man, it'd be a great hobby, whatever you want to do. And I found a group and just said, hey, I'd like to try this. And very quickly, Martha and I decided we want to have a network. And then, we just realized, even if you don't know what you're doing, which we still feel like we don't in a lot of ways, you just keep hammering away. You just keep having fun. It's just like the greatest hobby I've ever had.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic. And, it lets you talk, talk about things and give it some kind of focus and purpose. And I think it makes you think about different things in a much more serious light. Even though we have a lot of fun with it, I do spend a lot of time thinking about it, and I think it's really cool. And
it's funny how much homework we have to do for our dumb shows,
Yeah, for stuff that we said, it's going to be kind of a throwaway, and it's not. It never is. I know we say it and we joke about it sometimes, but there is a lot that goes into it. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think this little experiment we have here is going to be a real test, because this is way different than our other things.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we, and so what the fans know, usually we do everything live. We do everything live and together. And this is our first time doing this, not in the same room. So it's going to be a little bit different. So,
well, yeah, it's doing it like I end up doing. I do a lot of podcasts with Martha, so we're sitting in the same room doing it.
Sure.
But, like Nuff said, Alil's at his house, Jack's down in Florida. We're like all over the place. I spend most of my time staring at a screen and watching the numbers go by as I talk.
Sure.
So this is really different. I'm so used to, being in the same room with you and talking out like really geeky stuff typically. So,
well, I think we you feed off that energy, and it'll be fine. And I think it'll be good. It's just, you have a lot more experience at doing this kind of podcasting than I do. Well, which is great. So
just watch, man. You're going to be a pro by the end of this.
Well, I'll talk to a corner, talk to myself. So, don't, not that that's the case, but I have no problem doing that.
Yeah,
so
no, I know. Well, you know what? Okay, we should jump into this thing because this is going to be a lot of fun. And then I'm Rob Southgate. Martha and I started this network, and I'm on a ton of shows. And if you want to get into podcasting, I think you got the message. Call me. Actually, if you go to the website and you write in there on the contact us thing, it actually does go directly to me. So if you do have a question about the show, if you have a question about podcasting, about anything, write to me. Relationship advice I'm not so great at, but everything else I'm probably, I'll at least give you some kind of answer.
Yeah.
I didn't say it's good.
I think it's good. I mean, I think it's a testament to, not to toot your horn or to talk about, that kind of stuff, but everywhere that we go, in case any of you guys aren't familiar, we do a lot of conventions and a lot of live shows, which seems to be getting more and more as we go on. We get a lot of interest about people that are interested in doing this, and please don't hold back. If you want to do it, give it a shot. Basically, Rob will tell you this, and I'll tell you this. Commit to doing 10 things, and if you don't like it, then you don't like it. If you do, you'll do 100 more, and that it's a really cool thing. And it doesn't matter what you want to talk about. If you're passionate, people will feel that and feed off of it, and they'll enjoy it, and then you'll enjoy it as well. So it works.
And don't get bogged down in the details. Like audio is a big one. A lot of people are like, I don't know what I'm going to do for audio. You want to get the best sound you can, but let's face it, that's where the barrier to entry can be. And frankly, we've had people that have done their podcast by calling in, Skyping on an iPad.
Sure.
Okay, well, you got that right there. One of our guys was using a GarageBand mic. Okay, do you think he's going to do that forever? No. There's a point when you cross over. I had that. I was using the mic on the laptop, and at some point, Martha and I were like, look, we want to do this. We need to get microphones. So we bought a couple of decent microphones. And now we're looking at doing another upgrade. And it's like, you know what? That's kind of the progress. You do it, you start enjoying it, and then you start wanting to get better at it.
Sure, absolutely.
But don't make that better step be the step at the beginning. Just jump in there, just start recording.
Yeah, and there's plenty of the technology is even the lower price technology is really, really good. And it really won't, I don't want to say it won't make a difference, but for your beginning stuff, you can get by cheaply, $25, $30 tops if you have a laptop.
Yeah.
And you can get in and do it very well. And then you can, if you want to expand it and it's a passionate thing for you, you can do it. Just like anything, you can spend as much as you want, but you can do it fairly reasonably. And eBay and Amazon are your friends. That's all I have to say about that.
And I'll make one final point, one final statement on it. Since we did kind of get into this whole podcast thing, Martha and I were just interviewed on another podcast called ProfitCast. I highly recommend, if you are interested in becoming a podcaster or you want to just hear our story. It was awesome. It was supposed to be like a 30-minute interview. We ended up talking for almost an hour and a half. He cut it down to about 45 minutes. Nice. It's fantastic. It's so much fun for us to listen to because we really get to tell our story. And afterwards, he's been writing me ever since about, wow, this idea really sparked me and this really got me rethinking my approach. That's awesome. If you take a new person who's like, man, I want to try this, listen to it and just get inspired and jump in there because that's all we talk about is creativity and jumping in with 2 feet and just doing it. This is the time, too, before it all gets regulated because, at some point, somebody's going to figure out we can make money if we make people pay to podcast or, whatever.
Sure.
That's when it's going to be no fun. That's when we're going to all stop. But right now, it's the Wild West, man. Jump in there. Have a good time.
Oh, yeah, and it is good. And it's great for people who have passion about something to be able to talk about it, whether it's cooking, sports, podcasting, owning your own podcasting company, Doctor Who, Marvel,
whatever
DC, whatever it is, talk about it because there are people that want to listen.
Yeah.
And they enjoy the passion, and that's what attracts me is people who are passionate.
Yeah, anything you got a passion about, that's really the key.
The format's going to be different. Some people do it, quote unquote, more professionally or more in a journalistic style, but you'll see. Yeah, then there's us who just talk and don't even talk about what we're supposed to be talking about, which
Right.
which is the best kind of podcasting, I think. So,
Welcome to the Deutschland 83 podcast.
Yeah, we're talking about German podcasting, whatever that is. No.
Well, you know, maybe that is how we tie it together. Everything we just talked about, the freedom and everything, these guys didn't have.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
See, look, we brought it all back around.
We did.
So, okay, we came up with a couple of different names for the show. We're going to call it In Hoff We Trust, but I got to get it out there up front. It doesn't fit with our lineup, but we did want to call ourselves Deutschbags.
Yes.
I think that's the best name ever, but you know what? It doesn't fit with the network. So, you know, if we get an email that calls us that, we won't take offense because
we'll celebrate it and we will talk about it. So.
That's right, because we definitely call ourselves that, but
yes.
Yeah, that's not the name of the show. It's In Hoff We Trust. Did you, going into this, know what this was? I mean, we saw the preview, but Did you really know anything about it?
No, the only thing I knew was what I had seen in the previews and read, kind of the premise.
Did you know it was in German?
I did not know it was in German, and you know what? Maybe can we set? I guess no. You know what? You're doing fine. I did not know it was in German. I did not know it was going to be subtitled, and I had thought that they were going to do like a Hunt for Red October kind of thing where they were speaking in German and then would slowly transfer it to English over like one thing, and that hasn't happened yet, which is fine.
It's not going to happen. It's a German show.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen. But I did like that, like some of the Germans had the American accent, the ones on the East.
Yes.
Kind of had it. And the American, when he showed up, absolutely American. And then he spoke a little bit of German to him. But if that wasn't a true American accent, I'd be shocked.
Are you talking about the general? Or
yeah, the general. He was definitely
American. Yeah.
So I think that's just, that's something that I just really appreciate. Like we watch a lot of shows, and Martha and I both love like foreign films and stuff.
Sure.
And it does stick out when people don't speak in their native language. I do understand there's a choice where they have to decide, are we going to have subtitles? Are we going to allow this to happen? I'll give you a great example. We just binged s1e1.
Yes.
And you've got all these characters that speak all these different languages, but we hear them in English all the time.
Right.
And, it kind of took me out of it a few times that I wasn't seeing subtitles. I thought they did it really well, but it did take me out of it. This was kind of refreshing. Sure. I don't want it to transition to English. I want it to be German.
Yeah, and I do too. And I would bet that they all speak English as well because I know that one of them does because you're talking about s1e1. Did you notice that the guy who was Walter in the beginning of the show was on both shows? He played the director of their CIA, the guy who gets them I'm sorry, I'm blanking.
That's how I knew him.
Yeah, he is the guy, the uncle of the German guy. Yeah, so I saw it and I'm like, that's it, just because I just seen it. So
you know what? That's so funny. The whole time I'm watching that guy, I'm thinking, man, who is this actor? I recognize him. There was something sticking out. He was totally in s1e1.
Yep, totally. I mean, and he's just a good actor. He's just
he's solid, man.
He was very solid. So yeah, you know what? I think it also the subtitles add some legitimacy to it, to what's going on with it. I think it adds a lot of European flavor to the show, which obviously it is a European show because it's German, but it adds a little bit more to the setting and to the atmosphere that they're trying to set, that it is German, that it is about that time period, and it's a different culture that we're looking at. So
that's another thing.
Like that.
Like the locations where they shot, the feel. I mean, this is, in my opinion, 100% 83.
Oh, sure. Absolutely it is.
And, I don't know about you, but I've been over there. And in fact, I was there in 84.
Oh, wow.
And we had to cross through. I was touring with a jazz band and they had us cross through.
Oh, wow.
And it was weird. It was like when we went through, they were like, you don't say a word. We handle it. They know we're here to tour. And we went to the American base somewhere, but we had to go through and we couldn't take pictures of the wall. We couldn't do anything. And I remember these guys getting on the bus, just walking through, and it was frightening.
Oh, sure.
And it really, I didn't get that. Like, I didn't remember that until I was watching this, and I got that vibe, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was there. Like, this was totally it. It just had this weird feel to me. And yeah, I mean, I was young, so I don't remember exactly. But boy, it's tweaking it for me. So I can imagine if you were somebody who lived there at the time or visited there at the time, this is probably really tweaking a lot. Like, you really feel it.
Oh, yeah, it was very realistic, and I really appreciated their efforts to show the difference between what East and West Germany were like. Where,
oh yeah,
the scene where they get the guys at the border that are taking the books over to West Germany to sell to make money to bring back to East Germany. That whole clip, and that's on YouTube, so I'm not really giving anything away. That's one of the spoilers that they had out there. And then he takes the book and like how much he had to scrimp and save, and they didn't have much, and everything was provided for them, but it wasn't very much. And then he, fast forward to when he gets over to West Germany, and he kind of runs around and goes to the grocery store and is just amazed at how much food is sitting there on the shelf.
Well,
how much
funny?
That difference was. So
when we were watching that, Martha said, I don't know if this part's accurate. She said, there's a lot of like processed food on their shelves. I don't know if they would have had that. And the next scene was the guy sitting there eating basically like a McDonald's. And he's going, this is all chemicals.
Yes.
And the guy says that he explains, this is what the government's doing. It's like the Americans. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, maybe that was accurate. Maybe they did set up their grocery stores like American grocery stores with all those weird options and all those chemicals and stuff.
Well, not to be I don't know what the way to say unpatriotic, but we don't come up with a lot of those ideas. We steal them from Europe. They come up with it first, and I would not be surprised if the Germans came up with this to figure out that kind of processing of food.
Oh yeah, what are you kidding me?
To do that kind of thing. I mean, I always remember as a kid seeing stuff in European markets that was exactly like that. Was packaged like that, was very tightly packaged, was very processed because they made large amounts of it and were able to get it out to remote places because they didn't have the same kind of fresh food and ample supply of fresh food that we used to have here. Even as kids, you remember that all that produce. Now you go to a grocery store here, they don't have that much produce because they just don't have it and they don't want to waste it. So they don't just leave it out anymore. Right. It all goes to get processed. And I don't think that was inaccurate, especially in juices and milk and and things like that. They had all that was aseptic back then because they didn't know when they were going to get their next shipment because it was all coming from here and being processed. So they did that. All their stuff was shelf stable because of the war. They've been at war for
you know what? That's a really good point too. Is that they would have to have it that way because of all the war and all the turmoil. That makes a lot of sense. I'll tell you another thing that I found really interesting was that tension because of Russia, and like when the general said, they're not thinking they're Reagan is so far away, he's not really realizing how close we are. And then the guy says, your house would be bombed, and he goes, right.
And
I was like, wow. Yeah, even though you look at a map and you think about like, oh wow, it's really close. When he said it changed my perspective on it when I went like, wait a minute, these guys are right there and they're trying to be a democracy. They're trying to like work with us. And we're not really taking into account that they're getting squeezed by, West Germany and Russia.
Oh, sure.
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're getting squeezed by everybody. I mean, they're,
they're all around them. Yeah.
Even though they were the second biggest of that, communist or socialist power, they weren't anywhere close to what Russia is. Yeah. And so they are getting squeezed by that. And I'm sure all of the countries over there are in the same exact position. That they all were fearing Russia because Russia could be right there. And what was America going to do? The same thing that happened before.
Right.
They know they would know how to stop that, tactically, I would think. And our only solution would be to bomb them. And what good does that do? I mean, that is bad. I mean, that shows you how, I hate to say, we're going to turn this into a political science show now, how truly arrogant we were and not responsible neighbors and friends and allies of Europe and why they distrust us still to this day.
Right.
Even though they're totally dependent on us economically, and I'm sure we're going to get calls, or maybe we won't get calls, but they try to take over the market. Europe is trying to take over the market, turn everything over to the euro. Every time that happens, the world market crashes because we are the market. It's us and China now.
Right.
And Europe is not, they're a major player, but they're not, oil is still in U.S. money or in Chinese money.
Right.
That's what it's traded in, because we're the ones with the money. We're the ones who spend it. So, we should be a little bit more responsible in how we do that and how we treat our neighbors. So
I totally agree, man.
Sorry to get on the rant. So
that's all right.
But I mean, it makes it think about it. I mean, that was just 32 years ago.
Right.
32 years ago, there was still communism sitting right there, and really terrorizing a couple of 100 million people in Europe right there.
Do you watch The Americans?
I do not. So
okay. I have a high recommendation. Anybody watching this, watch The Americans. The Americans is different. I was afraid this was going to be similar. It's really different. It's dealing with spies. It's dealing with communism, but they're Russian operatives in America that have to be American.
Right.
They can't ever say Russian words. Like they can't slip out of their American accent even when they're alone in a private soundproof area. They must speak like they're Americans. And it's interesting because if you watch that, because we've watched the first 2 seasons, you watch that, and then I'm watching this and I'm thinking, the whole time I'm watching this, I'm thinking, at the same time as they're talking about the Russians and they're trying to get this information, there are these operatives, there are these moles in America really trying to do a similar thing.
Uh-huh. Oh, absolutely.
And it really adds a perspective. It is a wonderful companion show to this. Anybody watching Americans should absolutely be watching this, and vice versa. So there you go about that. Okay, I was on the Sundance.
What's kind of interesting with that whole thing, that is unfortunately politics today. Everybody spies on everybody.
Right.
You spy on your friends, you spy on your enemies. Sometimes you even spy on you spy on yourself, and sometimes you spy on your friends more so because they're the ones that can really hurt you. We knew who Russia was. We knew who East Germany was. We knew who Cuba was. They're the bad guys, but did we really know if Germany was going to be on our side or not our side, or whoever that was? And, it shows I hate to say, the level of mistrust and intrigue that is involved in world kind of politics. And I don't want to say it gets pretty heavy, but this can, I don't want to say in a silly little show, can show you how impactful all of that stuff can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
You watch all that, watch any of those movies, you're like, oh my gosh, a couple of people changed the whole destiny of the world.
Hey man, they did it with Spies Like Us.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you notice the missile thing was the thing like Spies Like Us?
It was. Well, it's the same missile, so it's the same missile kind of set. Well, because Spies Like Us is that's late 80s, so that would be the same exact kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. And they had it on the border of Russia. They were in Germany. I'm like, this is fantastic. This is the other part of the story we're not seeing is Spies Like Us.
Exactly. The real version, or
right? They need to have Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase like cameo on this.
Yeah, cheating at their CIA exam, so they can't get in.
Just see them walk by in the big furry coats with the big furry hats, just in the background.
Exactly. That would be a great nod. That would be awesome. Chevy Chase just stumbles in. Hey, what's going on here?
Yeah, right. Land shark.
Yep.
So I was on Sundance's website, and I didn't know if you wanted to try this. This already seems stupid, so I'm just going to tell you that right now. They have the Deutschland Episode 1 pop quiz. So
okay.
I'm going to ask you these.
Awesome.
And you know what? They're dumb. Wait, there might only be one. I see one on here. Martin catches 2 East German students with black market books by Karl Marx and...
Do you want me to answer that? William Shakespeare.
Yes, of course I want you to answer it. I loved that moment when he's like, here, keep the Karl Marx, read something. It's like, oh, that was great. And then he gives the book to his mom.
Right.
How about that? The Aunt Lorna thing.
Yeah, that's, the setup was not as, it was pretty simple, I think, in terms of to get the show started. It wasn't very... I don't want to say wasn't very imaginative.
Now, do you mean the fact that she was manipulating because of the mom's kidney issues?
Well, no, that seems like what would happen in those kind of situations, like where those people would use leverage over their subjects to
definitely
do things. it just seemed kind of corny, but the rest of the show was very good, and the way they act towards him
like
was fantastic. So
they had to get him in the situation. I did love the interrogation when they were talking to him, and then he broke his fingers, and you knew when they gave him the coffee that you knew they drugged him.
Well, when they did the thing with the fingers, that was just his response to solve a problem. It wasn't even him being cruel. It was just,
you don't play piano? Crack.
Yeah, well, now you can't. He's like, it's just sprained. Well, no, it's like shattered, but that's okay. So
man, that was brutal, too.
That was like real stone cold.
All right, here's a question. What does Aunt Lorna bring from the West to her sister Ingrid?
Coffee. Nescafe coffee, I believe.
It was Nescafe. Were you gagging at that? Did you notice the coffee thing she used, though?
Oh, yeah. It was a Chemex basically, wasn't it?
It was like a V8 or whatever you call that thing.
V60. It was a filter, just like that's.
It was great. I saw it, and Martha and I right away started talking about it, like, oh look, it's the thing, because we just talked about that on an episode of Input Junkie. We talked all about coffee and talked about that, and it was really cool. But
that was our first serious interview. I feel touched.
That's right. And then show me on the doll where when. But then she puts Nescafe in it, and I'm like, oh, gross.
Well, and you notice they called it good coffee.
Right.
Remember, because that ties back into, and we can talk about how it ties into the 80s. That was the total 80 marketing. This is really good coffee.
Wow, this is the highest quality you're getting.
Yeah, it's the biggest pile of poo in the world.
Oh, it's the worst. They're like, Hills Brothers is garbage, but this.
Yes, the Nescafe.
Nescafe. Oh, gosh.
But it was kind of funny,
So, this question's already done. We just answered it. Schweppenstadt, that was the guy. Sprains Martin's finger to cover the fact that he can't play piano.
The piano.
Yeah, we already talked about that.
Nice spoilers. We should be writing these quizzes.
Yeah, right. I mean, everything I'm reading here, I'm like, these are really bad. Okay, this will be the last one because these are terrible. Where does the abducted Martin wake up in West Germany?
Where? In Bonn. No, it's Bonn, isn't it?
I think it's Bonn.
It's Bonn, yeah.
Yeah, it's Bonn. So I say it was that easy, and here we are, like, stumbling over.
No, it's Bonn, and is it Schlittleiter? Is that the guy's name's house? I can't remember his name.
That. Schlittleiter, I like that name.
Tischbier, sorry.
Tischbier Schlittleiter.
I know. Well, I can't even read my own handwriting from the notes.
It is Tischbier. You know what? I liked that guy a lot.
Well, did you notice what he said to him when they were talking, sitting on the bench? And I think it's a big foreshadowing. He said, how long have you been here? He goes, I've been here 22 years.
Yes.
5 years, about the time you were born.
Yes.
So I'm going to call it right now. That's his dad.
Yeah, because he said his dad was dead.
Yes.
I'm going with you on that one, too. And I'll tell you, there's another clue to that. There's 8 episodes to this series, okay? So far?
Yes.
Tischbier is in all 8 episodes.
Well, he's his contact there. He's kind of like the aunt obviously goes back and forth to Berlin or wherever she goes. So he might be his contact there in Bonn. He's
really important. Yeah. And he's the
Red Reddington of
yes
of Deutschland 83.
And he's the top one listed in the cast. So that's telling me this is an important guy.
Sure, or he's the most
here's good news. Schweppenstadt is in all 8 episodes also.
Yeah. He's good. I like him a lot. So.
Yeah, man, that guy's great. What's his name? Sylvester Groth. That's his name. I thought, I mean, this guy's great. I enjoyed him in this. I know him from something else, though, and I got to look and see if I can find it. I'm looking on IMDb. Yes, Sense8 for sure.
Yes.
What?
You're welcome, by the way. Called that early, so.
Oh, of course. Of course I know what he is. He's Goebbels in Inglourious Basterds.
Oh wow, he is, isn't he? Oh my god!
As soon as I saw the name, I'm like, I can completely picture him in that role. Oh, that's awesome. The rest of it's all German stuff, which now I want to just pile through. We'll have to binge all that stuff, right?
Binging German movies to see.
Right. Starting with Das Boot, the director's cut. Well, that was 17 hours. I'm done.
Yes.
So I don't know. Are we calling him Martin or are we calling him Strom? Because
Moritz Strom. I don't know. We can call him Martin, I guess, or M. Well, I don't know what you want to call him.
So. I think we'll just have to call him by what he is in the scenes because he's Strom, and it doesn't sound like Strom is leaving anytime soon.
No, he's never leaving. That's what that's the typical spy thing is once you're in and undercover, you're only leaving because you're dead. Because they've got him, and they will always. Even when his mother passes away, which is going to happen, or something bad is going to happen, you know that they're going to keep holding that over him forever.
Yes.
Whether it's that or the girlfriend, or they're going to I hate to say that this is the way the plot's going to go. He's going to find out that Tishbeer is his dad, and then they're going to hold that over him too.
Right.
She's going to use whatever she needs to get him to do it, because he's actually very effective. Because going back to him or whatever, he's a very reluctant spy. They put him in because he looks the part, and he actually picked it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, he did.
Picking the locks, and he was practicing and wanting to do a good job. And
oh my gosh, how about that scene though? You know what? That was making me so nervous when he was in there and he was shooting the pictures.
Yes.
When first he goes to pick the lock, he can't quite get it. He picks the desk, gets the keys, opens the door. He's in there. I'm like, this is pretty nerve-wracking, man.
Right, and he's going to get caught first episode. Awesome. There we go.
Right.
It's over. So then the girlfriend comes in. Yeah, that'll be funny.
But you know what? You know how shows are. It very well could have happened, and we could have seen who the operative is, and then all of a sudden, it's about Tishbeer instead of him the whole time.
Oh yeah. Well,
I mean, that could have happened.
We know who their operative is that other Kramer Kramer, right? Is the guy who
Carl Kramer.
Carl Kramer, yeah. I was waiting for Cosmo Kramer to show up.
Yeah, right.
That would have been great. Michael Richardson shows up. Hey, what are you guys doing?
Oh my.
I mean, if he's the one who gives him the drug to give to Mrs. Werner, which I have other things to talk about her, but he's their guy on the inside. But he could never get close enough. So then they brought the young aide, because it's obvious that the father, that the general that he is the aide to, really doesn't like his own son, and I think he is feeling very much like Martin Mortz is the son that he would want.
We're going to see that play out. We're going to definitely see that play out, especially since he loves the fact that his daughter sings and is in music, and now he's perpetuating that onto Strom.
Oh, sure.
So that's definitely part of the factor here. Let's
plus
talk.
That's going to go because she's, a knockout, and where that's going to go too.
Oh yeah.
It's although very uncomfortable. So
although Annette, his girlfriend back home, is pretty much a knockout too.
Yes.
So I mean, this guy's going to get stuck between. What's he going? He's going to have to make a decision at some point here.
Well, he'll be told that he needs to get into the family.
Right.
That's going to be an obvious.
That's going to happen.
To call that and be obvious about it, but still, I want to see how that happens, because the brother is going to be against it. The brother doesn't trust him. That's the sense that I get from him.
Well,
he's trying to befriend him, but he's going to be like, well, why do you want to date my sister? Blah blah blah. And then there's always the whole thing with the aunt.
So let's talk about the aunt.
Yeah, sorry. So go ahead.
Let's talk about her. So first of all, she was when she first showed up, I thought, they're doing a German cougar movie.
Yeah, they were gonna, Mrs. Robinson. I thought,
because she was totally like the way she came in and everything, just like, how you doing there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cadet. So I thought that was pretty funny. When she heard him, the whole time he picked up the phone and we're going, get out of here. What are you doing?
Yeah, no kidding.
And they're going to be able to find out somebody called from the house to East Germany.
Right.
So what? But then she hears it. And I loved how that played out. She just hustled out of there. And then you're in this situation where she can't tell them. They are refusing to hear because the daughter's singing.
Right.
And I just, that whole scene I really enjoyed. Her drugged and being weird was a little strange.
Yeah.
And how is she really not going to remember anything? I mean, did that drug erase the memory?
Well, I mean, they might.
I would think it would erase from the point that it went in, but.
Well, yeah, it could affect short-term memory. I mean, it's obvious a drug to do that. I don't know what it's supposed to do. So I mean, maybe she'll just think that she was really drunk and didn't hear it. I mean, I think that would be possible because
they certainly don't take her seriously.
Right. Well, I mean, he even said that she always has some chance to embarrass herself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there's, the precedent is she doesn't have much credibility. But I think that the son is going to believe her. I think the son is going to, pick up on the aunt's going to tell the son's going to pick up on some of the little nuances of the things that Martin doesn't do correctly,
right.
That acts a little bit differently than a West German
Obviously,
does.
He's not going to call it a supermarket, or he's going to say Auf Wiedersehen at some point.
Yes.
And that's going to be a clue to somebody. I'm not sure who his main foil will be at this point. Mm-hmm. My guess is you're right that it's the brother. But maybe not. Maybe it's just that he's just always under that watchful eye.
Sure. Well, is it going to be? Well, I think it could be one of two people. I think it could be the brother. I also think it could be the secretary because he's really trying hard to get her on his side.
How about when she came back and she went right to the drawer,
right?
And then when she sat at her typewriter, man, I thought she knew.
Well, or she just thought that she forgot. Well, she thought that she forgot,
but she's got like OCD or something. So if those keys were not in there the way she left them, she knows it.
Oh yeah, and then there's going to be a time where he's going to do something with the typewriter, and he's going to leave it on, and she's going to get suspicious.
Yes,
because you notice she sat down, she looked at it, she held it, and then she turned it on, and then that's going to come back that they left that there for that. So there will be something along those lines. But maybe he could. They'll figure out some way to put it on the son. I think make it that he's acting suspicious and turn it around on that. Hopefully,
There's going to be something with that, or maybe because he's so under deep cover, that they will be able to transfer the blame to somebody else within the organization, not just the son, but somebody else. Because the son might be a little bit harder sell because of the father's ranking. I mean, it very well could be, but I'm thinking maybe they even sacrifice what's his name?
Kramer. I was thinking that too just now. Yeah, Kramer might be the guy there to.
It's like you've been here long enough. And you're not as deep in, or okay, there's questions floating around. Let's have this guy be the scapegoat, and that could be the case too.
Oh yeah, and I think that's very much set up for that. That he's going to be, that will give Martin a lot of credibility if he ends up turning Kramer in.
Yeah.
Too, he'll be like, well, how can I be the spy? This guy's a spy. I've been tracking him and noticing some of the things that he's been doing and all of those types of things, and I think that they'll eventually use that for credibility for him to get him deeper in and get him more access. So eventually.
So okay, we're kind of running out of time on this episode.
Sure.
Let's hit a couple of things here. First of all, is there a favorite scene for you?
I really thought the scene where he went to the supermarket to me was the that whole little scene where he kind of ran away was very interesting because it's like he went, all of a sudden he went in and there was not one TV, there was a bunch of TVs, and then there was a bunch of market, and then he ran into a bunch of food, and he was kind of sitting there like, oh my gosh, there's this much food in the world.
Right.
That was, to me, was very that he's in a different place. But to me, that was probably the most favorite scene. So.
Yeah, okay. I'm down with that. I actually,
what about you?
I'm always the worst at this. Whenever I ask a question like that and then I have to answer it, I can't, because you know me, I love everything.
Sure.
I think if I had to pick a scene that stood out to me, it's the scene where he was getting interrogated.
Mm-hmm.
When Hassenpfeffer, Schwester, whatever his name is, was, you know what I mean?
Yes.
When he was questioning him, there was so much tension. He made him play chess. He asked him all these questions, and then he drugs him and breaks his hand. Or sprains his fingers. I'm like, wow, that was just a great scene. And speaking of like Inglourious Bastards, that was a Tarantino scene right there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was strong. That was Breaking Bad type scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was very aggressive and very unsettling that this guy would do anything. And he did it to distract him to get the true answer.
Right.
See how he would handle himself, and he got the answer he liked. That he knew about soccer, knew about everything, and then the aunt turns to him and says, "Well, he can't play piano. That's the only thing." And the guy's like, "Oh, okay. I guess we have to go with this. It's already gone this far, so let's do that."
Yeah.
But that was a great scene, and I also thought the scene where they catch the two kids was really good.
That was great too.
They were really pooping in their pants. They were like, "We're busted. We're going to get killed."
Yeah,
and then they're real hardline with them, and then as they leave, they start laughing, which I thought was great.
So, was there anything that you didn't like? Was there anything that you're like, yeah, this didn't really work for me?
No, not really. I mean, I wanted to get a feel for the show, and I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be very good. I think there's a lot that they can do with it. I just hope that it isn't as predictable as I think it could be. But they're also, doing stuff from 32 years ago, and they're going to be limited by some of what happens in history.
You know what? You and I have the same bad. It's some of the things that you were saying that you said, I'm calling it now, this is the dad, or this is this. You know what? I didn't catch that he was the dad, but there were things that I'm like, that could be the only bad. If this turns out to follow the pattern that we're talking about right now, I don't want it to be so obvious. I want it to be surprising all the way through. Yeah, sure. They can have him be the dad. Okay, great. Don't make that the end game. Right. Don't make, the things that we talked about. I want to keep guessing so that at the end we don't know what the hell is happening.
Sure.
Americans does a beautiful job with that, and I'd like to see that here. And once again, to make it just a beautiful counterpart,
Yeah, it could be he could be some kind of relative. He could be like an uncle. He could be, he could be something else.
I don't even mind him being the dad.
Right.
I just don't want it to be, we find that out in the last episode, and it's like, oh, the shocker, and the shocker that it's the general's son this, or whatever. I need a little more. I need it to get, I need the heat to be turned up so that each time we're really guessing and feel that this guy's stuck. And you know what? I actually think we're going to get there, because if you watch the preview, there's a lot of crap happening in that preview that I'm going, how does he get to the point that he's like right there at an explosion? It looks like he's narrowly escaping a lot. This might have twists and turns that we're not predicting.
Yeah, I think there's a good foundation to go from. I just hope that he made some major mistakes right away, and that it isn't like, well, he's just going to be the bumbling idiot that succeeds because he's really smart but can't handle himself.
Yeah,
because I really hope so too. Pretty quick. So
yeah, and I think that if he has a slip up here and there, that'll be fine. But if we see a slip up in episode 2 that's similar, that might get a little stale.
Sure,
but you know what? I'm just saying this because it is good to kind of address the potential for bad. But if I had to rate this right now, man, this is one I wish we had all 8 episodes dumped on us so we could just binge this thing, because this is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm gonna take the other side of that. I kind of like sometimes having to wait to see it because it gives you a little bit of a chance. Now, I don't think the first show was that not intriguing, because I think it did wet my whistle and want me to watch more of it, but it didn't throw a lot out there at you and say, here it is, let's just do it. There's all these questions that you have to answer, but it seems like it's going to be the continuing thing. Hey, do one more. I'll let you go. Your mom's about to get a transplant. You need to do this one more thing to help do that. And I think it'll be a very big motivating factor. Factor for that. So hopefully you have time. Do we have time to maybe talk about all the 80s drops in there that really drove it home? And we could make that maybe a section of it or not?
Yeah, let's roll through that. Let's do that right now, and we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, because
the music was the biggest thing.
Absolutely, it was.
And it was great. They played 10cc. They had the Eurythmics. Yes. I was cracking up right at the beginning. 99 Luftballons.
Yes.
And then the guy says, they're playing this everywhere.
Yeah, that was fantastic, because like little did he know, they're like, oh boy, yeah, they're playing it over there in Berlin. So I thought it was good, and then ended up with a little bit of New Order at the end.
Yes, and it was a perfect song for it too.
Oh yeah, very. It's a very German discotheque type song. To nail that. Yeah. The Eurythmics, when he went into when they were in the supermarket, I thought was fantastic. And like, again, the Nescafe that we talked about earlier, the coffee, get us the good coffee. Well, that they're just reading the American propaganda as they're slamming Ronald Reagan, saying, oh, he's just an idiot. And he's an actor. What does he know?
Yeah,
well, he's an actor, but guess what? He's the head of the nation that could destroy the world. So
that's right. You
have to be very careful. I mean, we have the same opinion of other leaders of the countries, and they think the same about us. I mean, even we were thinking that at the time. It's like, man, Ronald Reagan's an actor.
I'm anxious to see. I thought they did a great job with the 80s stuff, and I'm anxious to see how they keep incorporating it. It wasn't like watching the Goldbergs, where it's like just up in your grill every minute. It was like, this is just their lives, but it was in the 80s. And the other thing is, it was in Germany, so they didn't have as much of it that could creep in.
Sure.
I don't care which side of Germany you were on, you didn't have, access to Alf and Simpsons t-shirts and all the crap that's going to come later, I mean, obviously 83, you didn't have that stuff, but you know what I mean? Like, they didn't have as much access.
Yeah, not as much. Well, Germany did. I mean, Germany is the most American of European
but it's
countries.
not. They're not steeped in it yet.
No, they're not, but they're. I mean, we
Once
probably
again, it would be
steal
the
more.
Goldbergs if it was steeped in it.
Yeah, no, it isn't over the top, but it's there. I mean, we steal as much from them as they probably stole from us in terms of lifestyle and things like that, where we want to be more like them and they want to be more like us. And
right.
But yeah, no, I agree. But it was very when he got over to Bond, it was very Americanized, and even the interaction between the American general and the German general, it was very much like they were the same. Just one happened to be wearing green and one happened to be wearing brown.
Yeah, right.
There was not much difference between them. Other, like I said, other than one was American and they did it. Even when they went to the general's house, he wanted to do a barbecue. They had they grilled sausages like we grill hot dogs, even though theirs is just different size or different style. They were all drinking wine. They had their daughter perform because they were very proud of her. Right. Their house looked very much like a house you find here.
When he was leaning over the fish tank and watching the weird sister-in-law outside,
sure,
it totally was like watching Mad Men or something. I just was like, there's no difference here.
Right, there isn't. I mean, I think that just goes to show that people, wherever they are in the world, are pretty much the same, even though their environments or the landscape may be a little different. We all kind of deal with the same thing. We all have the same worries. I think we're fortunate as Americans that we don't really have an enemy sitting right here. Being in Europe where those guys are right
Canada.
there. Exactly. Those damn, other than those people from Iowa, as we're going to talk about later.
People from Iowa.
Those Iowans, I'm teasing. But we don't face that specter. We don't have that fear that someone's going to come. And I think that kind of.
And these guys, I mean, they've got Russia sitting right there, and this is when Russia's a friggin' hotbed.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. I mean, from 1983, it's less than 100 years where Germany wasn't even a big country. It was just a bunch of little city-states running around. In their recent history, they're not even Germany. They're Russia and all those other things. So
this is 40 years since Hitler.
Right.
So if you think in that type of time frame, it's like, think about how, as when you and I were kids in the 70s and that, there was still that specter of Hitler over everything. Like, like now, kids know who he is, or you see references, but we'd see it in cartoons. It would get talked about all the time. I mean, like this was like
Hogan's Heroes. We had to watch that.
But, yeah, right. We had to. Like we wouldn't watch it right now. But imagine what these guys are living with.
Oh yeah,
the specter of Hitler and of Nazi Germany, and now you've got this divide in communism, and you've got Russia here who's like ready to take on the world, and you're like, what is going on? I can't even imagine.
Oh yeah, well, and they don't know. I guess we have the benefit of hindsight, looking at what is going to happen, because all of this stuff that they're doing in the end really doesn't mean very much, because East Germany's gone within the next 5 years from this, right? Within the wall going, was it 87? I can't even remember.
I think it was 87. And
so like in 4 years, all of this stuff that they're doing all of a sudden is going to be like, wow, we stole secrets from our friends. They're all going to be intertwined. So
Right. So, and really Strom's time there is limited. It is only so many years, no matter what. So the guy who's been there 21 years, he's not going to be living that unless no, he's not. It's going to be different. It's going to be different. I mean, he could be taken in as a Cold War spy, and that's how it ends up more like the Americans. Like he could end up in that world of spy, but I doubt it. I have a feeling when this is over, he's either going to survive and we're going to see him go to a normal life as if this never happened, or it's going to turn into like German James Bond.
Right.
I'm okay with either one.
But they're not international. They're very,
they're not fighting an international war. They're protecting what's theirs and trying to find out what the democracy is doing over there.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like during our Civil War and we had spies. Think about it. You're both fighting for America, but you're fighting for one side or another. And
but one had an A at the front of it.
Well, yeah, America. Essentially, they're the same people, spoke the same language. It's just one half got occupied by Russian and the Communist Party as a concession from what happened in World War, because Germany blew up half of Russia and killed almost all the people there. So they got that section, and democracy, capitalism got the other side. But they're still the same people. I mean, you're going to tell me that one guy that lives on one side of Berlin and across the street is from the wall, they're that much different? but they're just trying to protect their own interests. So
yeah,
they're spying on their brothers. There would be a very Civil War kind of thing. Hey, if you're
that's
from the
an
South,
interesting thing to put the Civil War spin on it. You kind of got me thinking about that. Like I didn't really think of that, but yeah, this is similar.
They share the same history basically up until about 30 years before this happened. I mean, it is they were the same country. They fought the same things. They just happened to be they built a wall. Somebody lived on that side.
One's on this side of the wall, and one's on that side of the wall.
Right, and so you're going to fight for your people because you're on that side of the wall. That doesn't mean that it's right. Doesn't mean that it's
right,
a good or a bad thing. And you're living there. You have to fight to protect yourself. So I can see why they would be that. And then I can also see at the other side when things change and the wall gets knocked down, and all of a sudden I remember that as a kid. I remember that argument. The Germans were like, why do we have to take all these poor, uneducated people into our country? But the East Germans, athletically were so much better than everybody else because they did what they did. And so they loved having their athletes. They just didn't love having all the people to feed and to employ and to pay money to and all that stuff. So,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, this is really interesting.
So,
this is I think quite different than other things we do. You know what? I'm going to wrap it up. Because we definitely want to get into episode 2. We'll be doing that next week. You can listen to past episodes of 80s Reboot Overdrive and of all of our podcasts at our website, which is www.southgatemediagroup.com. As far as Twitter goes, I'm just going to throw out there that we tweet from the company from at SMG Pods. I tweet at R Southgate. Chris, you tweet from your business. Do you do personal stuff on there, or is it really
it's more just business stuff.
Well, throw it out there. Throw out your Twitter.
Facebook is Blue Box Cafe, and Twitter is BlueBox176 is our Twitter account. So
yeah. So, and if you happen to be in Elgin, Illinois, and you want to come say hi on, you can go in anytime and see Chris. On Saturday nights, we're there doing live at the Blue Box. We'd love to have you come down and meet us and listen to some live podcasts. It's free. The food's awesome. The coffee's awesome. It's not Nescafe though.
It is not Nescafe, and it's most Saturday nights. We have a few that we
there's a few. So
we do
you want to look on the website because I always post the monthly schedule, and it'll tell you if there's any like special event or if there's something going on. Speaking of special events, if you are in Elgin, August 1st we are doing a 12-hour podcast marathon as a fundraiser for a kid from Elgin who has he's autistic and he has brain cancer. So we're doing a fundraiser to try to help out and to draw awareness to it. So if you can come out then. Otherwise, all that stuff will be live on, we'll be on Twitch. I think we'll be on Twitch. We'll be on Meerkat for sure. We should be on Periscope, YouTube Live, and Google Hangout. Or Google
and
Plus,
we'll be sending smoke signals. So if you're in the area, you can look at that. We're going old school. Smoke signals and
trust me, if that was going to be a way to get the message out, we would do smoke signals.
And we'll be doing some tribal drums to be, to message across.
Yeah, but that's not licensed, so we got to be careful with that.
We do. We have to be careful.
Yeah, and actually we picked up a couple of new, I haven't even told you this, Chris, but we got a couple new ones that are going to be there on August 1st. We are getting people that have been nominated for podcast awards. We've got one of them is a huge show. Another fairly big show came today and said, hey man, we're really interested in doing this. So I mean, we thought we had a good lineup before, but it's really turning into something else.
Are we bumping League of Geeks? Because that's what we should. Oh, sorry, Lil. Hey.
Sports Geeks. He's like, wait, I was just going to debut. Sorry.
Sorry.
No, nothing. Alil is getting bumped. Alil gets his spot. So
I have to tease him because he's not here.
That's right. That's right. Well, he won't listen to this either.
Yes.
All right. Hey. That's it, everybody. Until next time.
Auf Wiedersehen.